Hey, hey everybody, it's me, Peeless Drew. How is everybody? So today we'll discuss a few topics, but as you can see, primarily we're going to discuss this little bit of sculpture here, this work of art. It has its minuses, just like Challenger did. Well, just really like Peru Kill did. They're so dedicated to getting the transformation perfect that a lot of times they use the feet as part of the transformation, and as a consequence, just like Challenger, you don't really end up with like front back ankle rockers. I mean, you can kind of tilt that, but that doesn't count. So its ability to pose in complicated stance, he's not like a posing figure. He's got some pretty good joints though. I mean, he's got these hip joints, pretty variable. You can kind of see in there. It's like a classic sort of setup. And the arms are basically the same. Shoulders are the same kind of joints. The arms can kind of go back a little bit, so there's a little bit of a butterfly, which is nice. And they've also got, kind of like Challenger, they've got a few places where it's like it's spring-loaded for no good reason. So this does this. But you can kind of fold it down to get it to behave. I wish that you could see less of this gold from the front, but maybe that's movie accurate. I don't know. Johan Diaz and my boy Pac. What's up? I want to do a little housekeeping though. Hopefully he doesn't fall off. That would suck. Nobody needs much help with Earthrise, let's be honest. I've got the first wave of Earthrise figures, but you guys can figure that out for yourselves. But I tell you what, this guy, he has a little bit of a feature or a transformation step that's not really mentioned, and I watched a YouTuber struggle with it, you know, picking at these clips to get the front down. And it's hilariously easy to do this, and it doesn't require any effort at all for either mode. So let's just review that real quick. So you get the nose cone done. Everybody knows that. But to get these clips out, as long as this isn't obstructed, this gap, I swear it might even be intentional, but it is a gap for the arm that carries the nose cone. But as long as that gap is free, you can squeeze the nacelles or the intakes, and then it's super easy to get those tabs free. Super duper easy. Now, I know what you're saying. Those of you that might have this, you're like, well, then how the hell are you going to do it in plane mode? Well, same way. We don't engage the nose cone yet. We just leave it like that. And then you can still squeeze the tabs and get them in. And then you do the nose cone or the cockpit. So as long as you free up this gap, you can squeeze the intakes and you can fold that open. It's super easy that way, and it doesn't cause any unnecessary wear and tear on those little tabs that do that. So, for those of you that have found Earthrise Starscream, or for those of you in the future that for some reason watch this video, that's how you free up these tabs. Super easy, just squeeze it. Alright, so we got that covered. Let me know if you have any other Earthrise questions. I've got everything from the first wave except for Optimus Prime. No, the YouTuber in question, I don't even remember who it was. I was just looking it up and watching a random video. But I think he had his heart in the right place. But it's just so easy if you squeeze this. And even go into plane mode, like I said, as long as you don't engage the cockpit yet, you can still squeeze this. So I usually bust YouTubers' balls more for this Let me recreate this based on your standard reviewer video. All right, now it's really important you could break these tabs, so it's really important to do it just like that, you see? Just like that. All right? So when you want to get this together, you just got to do this, and now it's together. That's my big complaint about YouTube reviewers. And the crazy thing is they're not doing it live. They could just cut and make another take when they realize it's out of frame. But I forget, the other day I looked up those old Seekers that looked almost exactly like F-22 Raptors. I can't remember what the names of them are now. But they're from like 10 years ago. Third-party Seekers. They had all three. And this reviewer did the classic, just, make sure you do this out of the top of the frame. I was just like, this, I don't want to call him out, but all right. So for some reason, we'll just get this out of the way. This guy comes with this thing. And it's just the strangest thing. When the boxes came in, my kid was like, one of the boxes is rattling. And I was like, I already knew that these bits would just be loose in the box. So I was like, it's like a Lego set. It's just got a bunch of pieces. But I just can't imagine what the purpose of this is. I mean, it looks like a display stand. There's a socket here. And I swear the socket is designed for this ball. So maybe one of these days I'll take the screws out of this and see if this ball actually goes in this socket. But it's almost like you could string a bunch of these together, and I'm like, why? What is this for? And you could say it's a display stand, but frankly, it's too small. It's nice and thick, but the footprint is a little too small for him to stand on, except, with his legs fairly close together. I don't get it. I mean, it kind of looks like the worm thing from the movies. And can you imagine, who would buy 12 of these to string them together? But there's clearly a socket here, a ball socket, and I swear it's the same size as this ball. It's kind of fun. If you put it on a really smooth, flat surface like this, it'll actually kind of spin on that ball. It doesn't make sense to me. It's pretty weird. So we'll just set this aside so it's not in my damn way. Let's talk about Dragoon. It's awesome. I love Unique Toys design. By the time you're done transforming this, it doesn't really look like it transforms in either mode. You can see here that the back is perfectly clean. Trust me, this thing turns into a jet with big flat wings. Where are those wings right now? Who can say? It's just a gorgeous figure. It's a lot bigger than Challenger. Challenger probably comes up to about there. So he's a head or two taller than Challenger. I heard a rumor that Challenger was originally supposed to be this scale, and they scaled it down, but I don't know if that's true or not. Who can say? Except Unique Toys. He's got real nice hands with little pointy claws. The sword tabs in securely. And then the index finger is separate, but the rest of the fingers are tied together, which is fine, no big deal. Perfectly good design. We can take the shield off. The shield is not part of the alt mode, so it's just extraneous. I've seen people complain that the hips are a bit weak, but I mean, considering that you could pretty much just pose them standing, with the lack of ankle. I mean, it has ankle rock, which is nice, but it doesn't have an ankle tilt. I mean, you can kind of lift this up, but that doesn't count. You probably stuff something in there so it can be tilted. But it certainly doesn't tilt the other way either. It is what it is. They really focus on the transformation, like a perfect transformation, and in the process there's maybe a few articulation notes that are missed. This is kind of cool because it's got like a double braided chain like two chains stitched through each other. And nowhere in the box or the packaging does it say what batteries. I would guess LR44s. I forgot to take this with me to Walmart today to see if I could eyeball what batteries go in there. But you're supposed to put, according to the battery cover, 2 batteries in there. Perhaps LR44s, maybe 123s, I don't know. So this is actually used for the vehicle mode. So this is vehicle mode attachment, and this is attaching to his arm. So we'll get it ready for vehicle mode, because that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to see how this thing transforms, and you're going to be like, what? Alright. Let's bring him down a level. We can discuss his head since we're here. So these parts flip out. And then it helps to move one of the chest pieces out of the way so you can kind of sneak the chin past. But you turn the head around and then you lift the top of the head and rotate the top of the head around and put it back down. So he's got 2 faces, one in the front and one in the back, and then the head just flips around. So he can have his like more human looking head or unguarded head. And then you can flip it around and sneak it past here. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass. And then you spread them out. The hinges for these are actually way towards the back, so you just kind of spread out the back and it pinches against his nose pretty nicely. That's the head bit. Let's see how our comments are going. Whew, boy, everyone's talking today. Let's catch up. Earthrise Starscream John Diaz is pretty good. Like a weird space bridge. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Honda hubcap for a goth kid. Display base looks. I know it looks like the driller. Yeah, but like you need to buy a lot of this guy to get enough of those bases to string them together. It's just bizarre. You don't like stupid accessories? I'm with you there. Also, oddly enough, he came with, besides what you've seen so far, I mean, he came with instructions, which are big enough that but he comes with a nice little card, which is cute. He comes with like a Optimus Prime head. Maybe this is definitely for Challenger. But, I mean, it looks like the same head. I don't know what this is included for. But it came with that in case you got a Challenger, and I'll have to eyeball it and see why that head is any different than the one that came with Challenger. The instructions seem really sparse. Doesn't look like a lot of steps, but the instructions are actually pretty good. They covered all the basics. One thing to get used to is it's taking you across here and then down and backwards and then down and forwards, which is a little weird to follow. But those are his instructions. Back to Dragoon. I gotta check my messages. I'm sorry, I'm still behind. We are ready for some black magic. Alright, cool. So, probably won't be the exact order I use for the stop motion because you got to make some allowances for him to be able to stand up the entire time. But one good place to start is to go ahead and take this butt piece, and I like to bring it around, and I like to put it over these guys and tuck it all in towards the middle. But now his butt is freer. So then we open up the chest panels, which tab, you can see the tab slot there. And you can take this shoulder bit and flip it down. It seems like it transforms a little bit, but you don't really have to. I mean, you can put these in a little bit. I think it's just pinned as a construction approach. I don't think it's meant to fold down, and you don't have to. So ignore that pin. If you fold it down, it'll actually kind of pop past So it's just, I don't think it's intended to fold, and it doesn't, like I said, have to. We lift up on the neck piece, and then sometimes this gets a little stuck, so hopefully it will behave this time, but you just flip this down. And then you flip this down. And then I noticed that the head, I like to open this up and flip it around backwards. Although in plane mode, gravity tends to pull that down. So I'm probably going to have to put the old super glue treatment on the stem that extends that so it's not quite so loose. But the head actually seems to be, not in the instructions, but this definitely snaps to a more, what would be a more rearward position for the head, so it tucks further in. And then, like I said, this whole thing just kind of goes around his head loosely. Doesn't matter. Then we can go ahead and get the arms situated the way they're supposed to be. So we flip these down, flip these sideways. This. So that's one arm. I like to put them angled in towards the center for reasons that maybe become clear later. Just keep them out of the way. One thing we can do while we still have a little clearance to do it is to get these rotated around upside down. And then I can't imagine how I would do this particular bit in, you know, I can't float them in midair when I do stop motion, but if you get the legs out of the way, then you can go ahead. There's like a tab. There's a little tab there. How do I highlight that, man? There's a little tab. There's a little hole. So the whole upper body ends up flipped upside down like this. And like I said, the head will constantly separate because of gravity. And then this part of the torso lifts up. And this part lifts up. And then you can open this. You can flip this nose cone out. Now it's attached to the sort of cockpit cover. Now that ends up like this in robot mode. It ends up covering the cockpit in vehicle mode. This opens up. You see how I'm keeping it in screen? I'm trying. He's really tall at this point. And then it helps to just go ahead and flip this landing gear assembly over. There is like a tab here that it can fit into, and the landing gear will lower. Alright, so now we do the shoulder, the pauldrons, and the parts of the chest here. I'm going to lift this one up first. They're both on a central slider. So this lifts up, and then there's a little bit of a tab there. This one will likewise lift up, and there's a tab. And then you got to kind of spin these around so they fit. They both just kind of go to the center of the chest here. The one pauldron, or I don't know what you call it, the shoulder piece, has a spike on it, and that spike is just spring-loaded so that a future step will just push it out of the way. In fact, we have arrived at that step, actually. So we flip out this engine bit and flip out this bit, and then we push that thing in. And the engine, to get everything lined up, it helps to kind of overextend the engine bit and then make sure it's pushing the spike in. And this just tabs in there. And then the engine tabs in right to the middle. This side's a little easier because you're not fighting a spring-loaded spike. But we can just flip it out, tab it in, and tab it in. And all that only works if the upper body is completely out of the way like this. If it's, you can see there's some clearance issues otherwise. So, I mean, it would be nice to levitate the thing in midair and stop motion and get the upper body out of the way. I might just lay it on the table I mean, it's going to be going from plane mode when I transform it, so maybe I'll try to do as much of it laying down as possible. Be nostalgic for me, you know. It'll be like doing a Fans Toys figure where you have to lay it down on the table because it can't stand up at any point past the initial unpegging. All right. I'm taking care of my obligatory picking on Fans Toys for the day. So, we're diverging from the instructions already, but the instructions don't seem to mention, or maybe I was just reading them backwards with that weird zigzag, but there's a tab here that goes into a hole there, and until you release that hole, you can't actually open this bit up. You can imagine. But this opens up, and then it rotates around, and then it's just kind of ready for the next step at that point. But at this point, I can go ahead and this has to be, well, this is right, yeah. I feel like it's wrong. Yeah, I'm upside down. So once you get this thing untabbed, you got to get this rotated around this way. There we go. There'll be some elegant way to do that. I've done it a couple of times where it didn't collide, but I haven't mastered the sequence of it yet. But it helps to just kind of hold on to this one and pop it. Just make sure you've pulled this tab first, or otherwise you're going to be sad. And the whole thing goes this direction, actually. So that, and then maybe come up like this. The leg likes to get in the way, and then finish this the rest of the way around. There we go. So we're getting there. Let's focus on one of these legs. Alright. So this has a little bit of a, you have to kind of lift it. It's another spring, kind of pointlessly spring-loaded part, but whatever. But you kind of fold that whole thing back. And then you take this up. You want to fold this way, and there's a little bit of a clearance issue with these tabs, but you just kind of jiggle it past. And this one can pretty much go, you know, at 90-degree angles to the steel part there. But the other one, let's see if we can get it out. It likes to get stuck sometimes. But this one, you want to kind of overextend it, mostly because you're seeking a little bit of clearance right here. And so if you don't overextend it, it'll get in the way. But then we can lift up this. Yeah, that's where that wing was hiding. And then we flip this over. And it's actually got a bit of a tab there, which is nice. And now we've got a wing, and then it kind of helps to maybe straighten things up here a little bit. It does help to have the wing a little further back, because there's a part that has to tab in here, and it helps to have the wing out of the way, so it will. But we're pretty much ready with this side to go ahead and collapse it in. You just basically want to bend it at this joint and have it be straight through on that one. Oh, and let's see. Need to get this out of the way. There we go. So that goes in front of there. Everything goes behind. You can do one side at a time, which is nice. There might be a better time to rotate this around, but there still is clearance at this point to rotate this around. And then this will hit the wing, so you may as well just kind of unfold it, but you don't want it all the way forward yet, so it's like a bit of a park. I hate parking, but... And then our goal here is to, you know, there's a tab there that goes into a socket there, and there's a tab here that goes there, and the whole thing tabs together like that. And then this comes up and catches this peg. It can be a little funny sometimes, though, till you get the alignment right. We'll circle back to it. And then the arm, which we have left out of the way, you see a big socket there. There is a tab on the arm. So we want to tab the arm in here. Lower this. I'll leave that up, actually. so we can see it. Let me get the tab back in. There we go. So the whole thing situates like this, and remember the wing has to come forward again at some point once you're clear here. And then this funny little bit here covers up the hand, and then this tab only captures right here. But now you've got kind of like the jet nozzle, and then you can lift up this gun, and then these halves split. What was on the bottom of the foot, rotate them towards each other, tab them together, and then this big slot captures this little peg. For some reason it's bigger than it needs to be, but we've got one half of the wing done. Flip out the little aileron. So let's do this side. Once again, we are clearing the foot around the top of the foot there and folding this open. We're lifting this up and rotating this bit back. One of these days I'm going to break one of these things live and everyone's going to laugh at me. That's just the way it is. It helps to kind of, we want the rocket to go this way but the wing to stay still. So I'm going to hold the wing, push on the rocket. But we're just trying to move that piece and overextend it a little bit so the wing has room to flip out. Flip this over, tab this in place. And then we can flip up the foot, rotate it around, put the toes down here. So that's ready to go. And then we're just getting this in front of this. Not too bad. So that all fits in like that. We have to flip this thing around. Get that out of the way of the wing because it's too late later. Go ahead and get these tabs situated. And then this can capture up there. And then untab the foot halves. Rotate them. I'm getting ahead of myself because I didn't do the back of the jet nozzle yet, but I don't think this gets in the way. Come on. All right. Yeah, it would kind of get in the way, so let's just get this taken care of. So we're going to swing the arm and plug it in. Messing it up, man. All right, and then this comes down over the hand, and this tabs in on there. There we go. We flip up the gun. They do that much earlier in the instructions. They're flipping up the gun, and boy, it's easier to not have to have that crap in the way until you're ready for it. Usually when I approach transforming something, I want to find little pieces that can just move out of the way, like go from their one position to their other position without being in the way of anything else. That's kind of how I approach it. So the head is drooping. You can see it droop. I mean, it doesn't much matter if it does. It just kind of hangs down, but you can see a little bit of his face at that point. So I am going to have to make that stem a little more friction-y. But at that point, oh, and the plane mode looks a little spare on the back here until you put the gun back on. So we can plug this into the same sort of shoulder that we had it on before. Socket there, route the chain under there, and then plug in the thing. And there we go. He does have kind of a functional cockpit. You could probably put a headmaster in there or something if you wanted to. Human Alliance figure, I don't know. but just real handsome. Unlike the first movie Jet, this one looks more like, you know, it's more accessible to the eye. You know, it's not like a wad of aluminum foil. It's a shape. It's funny. The thing almost looks green under some light, but it's a dark gray. All right. So what have you guys been talking about since I did all that? Yeah, I know it's a replacement head, but what's it a replacement for, Shark 7? What have you done? No, this is a lot more elegant than like MP44. The designers at Unique Toys, there was a glimmer of that. I had the, well, I still do. I have the Provider, their Octane, the jet that turns into a tanker truck. And that thing was pretty clever. That had some clever ideas in it. I don't know if it's the same team of people the whole way through, but starting with, especially with Peru Kill, Unique Toys really got their shit together, and it's a really, really clever design house. There's a few companies that really have their shit together when it comes to their engineering and clean-looking bots. There's no backpack on this guy. When you're done, when you get to robot mode, it's clean. The jet mode is pretty clean. There's a lot of stuff that, I don't know, I really like how they rearrange everything. Because we've had a few iterations of this. There was the original Voyager scale figure where the wings just kind of wrapped around the lower legs. Didn't look perfect, but was a decent figure. There was the leader figure that was just a hot mess. The Voyager one that was the one that was upscaled in a figure that was called Rensora or something like that. Yeah, I saw the Shark. I saw the sneak pictures of their Galvatron. A little more black magic. So I'm looking forward to that. Especially how in the movie people couldn't figure out how to get that to transform. They just had it turn into particles and then come back together. It's stupid. So I am looking forward to see how Unique Toys is pulling that off. It looks really clever. I mean, even if you don't like movie toys, if you like transforming figures at all, you should be buying these Unique Toy figures because they are a celebration of proper design. Other than the articulation issues that they run into, but they're just not that focused on that. They want a real clean figure and a real clean alt mode. It really is. I kind of like the tank, but the tank was a little bit like a crumpled up ball of aluminum foil too. This was a pretty cool design, and it's a shame they started retconning the whole story. Like, oh, it's like Knights of the Round Table and Merlin and shit. It didn't make a lot of sense. But the designs were actually a lot better in the later movies than the earlier movies where they were a little too skeletal. I think that's what turned most people off to the Bayformer design was how skeletal they used to be. But when they get to this movie, they're really trying to nail like a knight. Even the Optimus Prime, their Challenger, has that knight aesthetic, the armor plate aesthetic. A mole troll space cruiser right there. Yeah. Cool. You can really see all of the mail plate for the robot mode hiding underneath here. This thing got out of whack. There we go. It's supposed to be like that, man. But, a couple of chest pieces, the shoulders, the shins. Just everything ends up in its place. This is not lining up properly and it's making me mad. So I'm gonna see what I can do about it. It's like it doesn't quite catch. It's making me sad. And that's pegged in properly. But for some reason this just wants to pop off. See that? I mean, it's not too far off. It doesn't look too bad glancing at it in plane mode, but I have to fiddle around and see if there's an alignment trick to get that to line up properly. Like I said, I got the I'll show you my favorite transformation in the Earthrise line so far. Who doesn't like this? It's a Wheeljack, man. Wheeljack was one of my favorites. Of course, there are 10 other vehicles that were also one of my favorites. But you get those out of the way, and then you can just go ahead and rotate that around. Nice and pretty. Easy peasy. Get these arms untabbed out here. Rotate these forearms. The head is scary when I first got it. It tabs real hard. And you're like, man, does this even go this direction? What direction does this go, you know? But, I mean, the real trick is just to push down on this tab as hard as you can. And you can get it past there, but it's a little freaky. It is a little tight. Is there a focus point for this camera? Jesus. Let's see. I don't know. You can see it. So this comes up. You have to kind of get under it. But you can just move the chest right into place if you do it in this order. And then the legs flip out. You have to watch these windshields because they pop right off. In fact, this one's popping off right now. But they end up inside there. Windshield bits. This one, for some reason, hasn't misbehaved on me yet. You just kind of rotate it down and hide it inside the knee. And then the feet come up. And, you know, it's a Wheeljack. I'm a little skeptical of these figures because they're so cheaply made. So much hollow. I got the grapple. Disappointed me quite a bit. Because that peg broke right the hell off. And I've seen people talking about how you can shave the tip of the peg down so it doesn't get stuck. But I mean, it wasn't all that stuck. And I didn't twist it because I know better. But for whatever reason, I went to pull that peg out and it just stayed in the hole. So I shoved it in there and called it a day. You can still kind of tab the thing together, but they're very cheaply made. Very cheap. But they also have to meet a bunch of stupid safety standards and, you know. Hasbro's got one hand tied behind its back when it comes to that kind of stuff, where these third-party companies don't have to worry about that because they're not selling children. Yeah, but it's crazy. The tab wasn't that tight. I didn't have to pull that hard. In fact, I'd seen someone mention it, and when I got this figure, I was like, oh, that's not so bad. That tab doesn't need to be shaved down. And I still don't think it does. The other tab goes in and out just fine. But for some reason, this damn tab snapped right off, because they're so cheap with this. I mean, look at it. It's not a solid tab. How do I convey this? Because the light, this thing is too fucking bright. Let's just bring down the exposure a notch. Alright, do you see that? The shiny, the white plastic? It's shaped like a C. So it's not even a solid tab, it's got a hollow in it. What kind of cheap ass... Why has it got a hollow in it? This'll save the weight for shipping by a billionth of an ounce. It doesn't make sense to me. If you're gonna make a tab, you know, properly. Yeah, Studio Series does. Earthrise is like this sort of waxier plastic. I don't know. I'm getting a little skeptical about buying the main lines. I like Studio Series still. The design is pretty clever. These guys are passable, but they're not trying to like really pull off a clever transformation. Studio Series, once in a while, you get kind of like a masterpiece sort of glimmer in there. Like you'll get a Studio Series. What's a good example? I don't know. I've had some Studio Series figures where I'm like, well, that's really clever. Like that's a designer really trying to come up with something clever. But I don't get that much with Siege and now Earthrise. Probably my favorite transformation in Siege was the Optimus Prime. I almost did a video on him, but I get too much other stuff to do. The Siege War for Cybertron trailer dropped. What is the trailer? Siege War for Cybertron trailer. Oh, okay, yeah, the Netflix trailer. I thought you meant like Optimus Prime's trailer, and I bet that. I bet Creston had the same confusion. Trailer? Yeah, Grapple's fun. I tell you who kind of drives me crazy. He's got some clever twists and turns, but Cliff Jumper, you really can't transform him without a spludger because the doors engage so tightly. Getting that tab to pop is kind of a pain in the ass. Another thing I don't like about Cliff Jumper is he's a parts former. Who ordered a parts former? But this whole back of the car, and you know they're C-shaped again. They're not solid posts, so beware. Maybe they'll snap off. But this whole back part comes off and then to be explored later. I'm not a big fan of parts forming like that. I mean, maybe a weapon, like this guy has a weapon that you can phase in, but I got to take the whole back of the car off to transform this thing. And then the back of the car ends up in a different spot. I don't know, man. I'm a little skeptical. Yeah. There we go. We got arms. Now let's put the back of the car back on, since it's apparently a parts former. So we flip out a tab that also just bizarrely has material missing from it. They're saving so much weight this way. You build 10,000 figures and you save like a millionth of an ounce on. We almost saved an ounce. All right, well, I mean, the Zeta Superion is cool and all, but here's hoping that when MMC finishes making their Defensor, which I guess is what's going to be next in their all built-in line, let's hope they come up with a really cool Superion all built in. That would be fun. I mean, it's a Concorde. You can have a big Concorde, and it can have the parts built into it. You know, like the anyway, it's a big plane, so you can have the legs of the combiner built into it, or you know, or kind of like Motormaster X Transbot's Motormaster. The trailer turns into the combiner parts. You could have, you know, like a big chunk of the Concorde turn into the combiner and have the smaller chunk of the Concorde turn into Silverbolt. There's a lot of different ways to handle that. Do you have any G1 cassettes? I'm trying to see what all the Japanese ones are for Soundwave. I don't have like some huge collection of cassettes. I have the recently re-released Ravage, Rumble, Frenzy, and Buzzsaw, because I think Laserbeak came with Soundwave, even though the original G1 Soundwave came with Buzzsaw. Confusing. Yeah, I thought so. You're really pushing Zeta, the Zeta Superion. Are the figures elegant? Are they clever? Uh, hey Pac, you wanna loan me your Zeta Superion? Hmm? I make a video of them. I'm gonna keep poking Earthrise figures. I got this guy, even though he's like the definition of a parts former. Whee! He's a parts former. If you're 10, you can turn him into a base. Won't that be exciting? Cliff Jumper comes with a crazy rocket launcher, so he can have his skis for whatever reason. Last one is this one. I should do this on camera. I guess that's the whole point. This guy was a little tricky to align, but he's not too bad if what you do is untab that and then pull that tab out. And now that's just out of the way. And then this is out of the way. And then you can... The arms, the way they tuck away is a little funny, but you get them in there, you get them out. This flips up. And then these are at a slight angle, and then you can flip this up, as long as those don't get in the way. And you'll notice the whole time I have this tab down firmly. So, like I said, you can sneak these in. It helps to flip down the hood before you straighten out the hips, because it kind of captures the bumper. These, of course, just flip out. It's not terribly exciting. And look, it's hollow. I don't like hollow. I don't like it. This flips down. While it's out of the way, you can get the head sneaked out here and capture that. And then fiddle the arms into position. And if you want the thingamajig, be careful, this wheel just pops right out. I pulled on it one time and I was like, what? Oh, for God's sakes. I will make you move. There you are. I guess they want these play features, and there's a lot of kids that would probably be like, oh, this is fun. Thanks, Grandma. But I'm a little skeptical. A little skeptical of the line. Although Starscream kind of made me think, oh, well, it's not too bad. Starscream's got some clever bits to him. Not too bad. Where'd Starscream end up? There he is. Maybe this will be my video. Maybe I'll just rename the video Earthrise. Crap. Let's transform Starscream while we're talking. How do I feel about the upcoming Studio Series figures? Yeah, I just haven't found Optimus Prime yet. God help me, I can't stop myself. I mean, I gotta wait. I didn't buy Cyberverse, so I'm getting better. I think I'm healing. But it has occurred to me that maybe I shouldn't buy the main lines at all, because what's the point? But then again, my fandom, a lot of people, that's what they can afford. So I know people get excited sometimes if I do like a Studio Series or mainline toy. But I'm not doing Cyberverse. That's for kids. I say this having collected almost all of those what are they called? Rescue bots. I have a whole shelf of rescue bots for no good reason. But that's because they're like single transformers, which I think are fun. One-step changers are fun. See, and I put the legs away too soon. Those of you that have this are probably thinking, you fool, you've put the legs away too soon. So I'll take them back out, because I need clearance for And then I squeeze. Well, let's do the leg. We'll do the stupid little arms here. The arms are so complicated, I can't help but think that someone's practicing. I like to think that Takara would come out with a modern, like version 2.0 of the Seeker mold. It'd be great to see Takara really do a cartoon accurate Seeker, if that's what they're going for. But with their complexity and stuff, it would be fun. People are kind of down on Takara designs lately, and they have their limitations, but they are clever and interesting, if maybe too complicated for some people. So how do I feel about the up-and-coming Studio Series figures? I mean, they're okay. They look fine. They're starting to get that hollowness more and more that the main lines have, but I mean, I've got to get Overload, but that thing does not turn into a proper-looking articulated dump truck. I'm sorry. It's a little weird looking, but they've made a lot of compromises to make it a triple changer, to make it turn into a body part. But if I continue, I'm going to have Mixmaster from Devil Savior in the next week or two. And if I like it, maybe I'll get the rest of the Devil Savior figures. And their Overload certainly looks a lot better than the Hasbro one. But the Hasbro one, the robot mode, looks pretty good. It's a pretty imposing robot that you never saw in the movie. That same reviewer did this thing where he pinned the back first and then pinned the front and talked about how it pulls the joint apart because it's just a snap-on joint. You know? And you don't pin the back on a piece like this first. It doesn't make sense. Because while you've still got, see, it comes off. The problem here on this side is this clearance. This plastic gets in the way. The other side doesn't quite have the same problem. But you get the front one while you still have a lot of wiggle. And then you've got this long lever here. And it won't pull the joint apart to get that in place. So the bottom line is, and this side works a lot better. But you get the front set. Then you set the back. And you have to kind of tweak this to get it in. But it's Starscream. The jet looks a little bit stubby, but then I looked up like diagram views of an F-15, and they are actually kind of that stubby looking. So the proportions on this aren't really that far off of a real F-15 Strike Eagle. So good for them. They done good after all. Studio Series Blitzwing looks pretty good. Studio Series Blitzwing. Oh, yeah. The thing that's supposedly Blitzwing from the Bumblebee movie, but really isn't at all Blitzwing. I would like to see Takara do a proper triple changer. I don't know why they're scared of it, but they need to get off their asses and show everyone what they can do with a triple changer. Because I think Takara could do some interesting things if they did their own Blitzwing or did their own Astro Train. That would be pretty cool. And of course, the main thing I want somebody to do, third party or Takara, is someone needs to do a rail racer from RID 2000. Because I think that's super cool. And it's a great looking figure, even though, as executed, it's got terrible stability issues. It doesn't stand up by itself very good. You know who looks kind of cool, though? Toy World's version of that triple changer from the Bumblebee movie. I mean, the car mode's a little compromised, but the jet mode looks great, and the robot mode looks really good. It's like Hasbro was like, we're not even going to try to make that a triple changer. We'll just make 2 robots, 2 toys for each one of those. Look, these 2 turn into cars, and these 2 turn into air vehicles. And that's all we're willing to do. It's too hard to make triple changers. I don't blame him. Must be hard. Yeah, the scrapper is weak because they just didn't even try very hard to make it look like a proper construction vehicle. I'm sure it turns into a perfectly good arm, but yeah, scrapper's a bit off. No, it doesn't. No, I don't tend to pre-order those things. I get an hour for lunch, and I like to go window shopping, and so I just go to a Walmart and a Target during lunch and see if they have what I'm looking for. Okay. All right. See you later, Creston. Sorry. Yeah, the swords and guns are a pain on the Rid Rail Racer. Yeah, it's a very pretty design that somehow manages to not even stand up properly by itself. I'd love to see a third party. I'd love to see an MP grade version of Rail Racer. Yeah, yeah. Toy World made Shatter and Prototype. It looks interesting. Yeah, the Sentinel Prime does look kind of good. The original leader one is one of my oldest videos, and I think that's a really good design. A lot of people bitched about it, but if you do everything in the right order, it's pretty clean. Yeah, I mean, did we even see Soundwave in robot mode when he was a satellite? I don't know, but I guess it's cool. Whew. All right. We had like an outage for a second there for some reason, but we're okay now. Sorry about that. Where's my bag for Earthrise crap? I'm gonna put this stuff in the bag. Boink. You know what I want to transform? I want to transform Dragoon. I can't get enough of that guy. It's super sweet. But yeah, that Voyager Sentinel looks cool. I like a boxy. I like that boxy fire truck turning into something that's not quite so boxy. That's what I liked about the leader figure too. So it's an interesting design. You don't get many airport fire trucks in the Transformers line. I'm getting ahead of myself. I should do the back first. Such a big figure. Here's where that leg gets in the way. Oof. bumping all over my countertop here. Just brilliant how they hide the wings inside the legs. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of wing tucked inside the shin there. Pretty interesting. And now we're gonna do this side. Where you wanna go? Where you wanna do? Where you want me to go? Ooh. I can see that hinge there getting beat up a little bit by trying to twist this thing around. So be aware. Now this. That. Sorry about all the incidental noise, ladies and germs. All right, Soundwave. See you later. That thing is pretty badass. I like it. I approve of that. Time. Well, yeah, the one thing Hasbro can copyright is names and a specific sequence of letters. They can trademark those and copyright those, but they can't copyright the sort of general design of something. So the fact that third-party companies can make something that looks like Optimus Prime and transforms into a truck that looks like Optimus Prime, they can get away with that because nobody can trademark or copyright that. But they can't call it Megatron, so they got to call it something else. And they want something that, if you did a search for it, would be fairly unique. So they don't want to call it Bob. They want to call it something that would be a rarer search term. And that's just how that goes. That's how that cookie crumbles. Oh, sorry. Ain't he handsome, though? Handsome robot. These are actually kind of a rubbery. Helps them get out of the way of everything else. There you go. There's your cannon arm. Bubba. Get this thing in focus right. Too far, too close, too far. Let's try 12. No. Let's try 8. No. Let's try 10. That's as close as I can get. Okay, folks, we'll be winding down here. If anyone has any last minute important things, I'm just going to do the 2-minute warning again. Compare this to the 3-0 statue. I don't have it. You have to Google that. I have faith in you. I don't get statues. Statues don't transform. I also don't get those action figures that they make, because they don't transform either. Oh, I've seen the pictures, yeah. Show Z actually has some comparison pictures that include that statue. Yeah, they did a really nice job with them. Again, the articulation is a little... His ability to pose properly is a little weak because his ankles are a little stiff. A little inflexible. Just like Challenger. But he stands real nice and he transforms real nice, and that's what I want. Alright, official 2-minute warning. How long is this stream? Oh my god, it's 1 hour and 8 minutes. Alright, we're not going to mess around. 2-minute warning. You can throw in your final comments. Maybe I'll have time to respond. But other than that, we'll be signing off in 2 minutes at 7:43 p.m. Good lord, this is a long live stream. Hope people don't find it too boring when they try to watch it later. But where else am I going to interact with up to a dozen people at once? Huh? When's that happen any other time? I mean, go to Walmart, I guess, but they don't want to hear about Transformers. Look at that. Capped out at 11 viewers at one point. Woo. Down to 5. The diehard gang. Alright. We're down to 1 minute till shutdown. Hope everyone has a nice day. Look for the stop motion of this glorious figure on Sunday. I mean, it's not too complicated. It's not like MP44, so I don't think it'll be too late Sunday. The main problem is trying to manage his size. He's really big. It's going to be tricky to keep him on the platform, and I might have to do a lot of post-editing to get rid of the platform, because when you pull the camera too far back, you can see the thing. Yeah, that is it. That is it, folks. I'm out in 30 seconds. I'm going to make my 2-minute warnings count. Make them mean something. Got 15 seconds. I don't know why I'm waiting. I could just end the stream now. I don't know. In fact, I will. I'm just going to beat my OCD and just end it a little bit early. Everyone have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. Talk to you on Sunday.